Understand how the performance pyramid works? You need to have and you need to do all of these things. So for instance, each year, when I've worked with some of the professional athletes, when it comes time November, December, we sit down and we go through a mission and goal. What are you going to do this year? What's your goal? And we get very specific on the goals. I want to earn X amount of money. I want to be such and such a spot on the money list, or I want to move from this tour to this tour. I want to drop my scoring average from here to here. We get very specific on these things. And we talk about motivation and attitude also at the beginning of the year, but that's something that also we do on a constant basis. Constant reinforcement. Am I keeping the right attitude? How do I keep my motivation up? And you can imagine if you're a golfer and a professional golfer, when you're out there week after week after week, especially if you're not one of the top golfers and you're missing cuts all the time, it can be a grind. It can be a grind, and you're just like, how do I stay with it? And then for us, what does that mean? For us, what happens is, we hit a little downspell, and all of a sudden our game goes a little bit sideways. How do you maintain your performance through all of that? How do you maintain your motivation? Well, all of a sudden the ball starts going sideways, and it's pretty easy to just kind of give up for a while. But those of you who are here obviously have a high degree of motivation, and you'll fight your way through all of that stuff. But knowing that and planning for it and preparing for it in advance will really help you. And I'm going to spend a separate session kind of going through each one of these things and giving you some very practical, very hands-on, applied ways to do each one of these things that are just going to help you to be better and better. And then self-awareness and effective practice. You'll hear that with me all the time. Practice in 5-ball sets, work on your self-awareness, because if you're not self-aware, then you can't self-change. So there's a process that we go through. We talked about some of that already. We'll talk about that more, because there's a whole thing that we're going to do on awareness and effective practice, and we'll break your game down and talk about where you should be spending most of your time to save most of your shots. And so if you think about the game and plan and really spend the time to focus on what you really need to focus on to get better, then you can drop your handicap substantially, right? So I had a lesson today, but just to give you a little for instance, and it's a young gal. She's in high school, and she shoots around 100, and her goal was to break 90. So we wrote that down. She had never written her goals down before, so she wrote down her goals. So that was good. So that was a start, but we picked a specific number. She wants to break 90. And then we talked about each area of her game. And the first thing, of course, I asked her about was putting. And I said, how many putts around do you average? She goes, well, I'm usually 2 or 3 putts on every hole. So you can imagine that she's probably somewhere in the 34 to 42 putts per round, maybe 44 putts per round, right? So I said, well, we're going to do a lesson on your swing today, but I'm going to give you a real quick synopsis of what you need to do and do with your putting. And I said, how much are you going to practice? And she said, I'm going to practice 3 to 6 hours per week. She's off school now. She has the time to do that. I said, okay, you need to commit to 1 hour per week, at least, putting. And of that, when you do your putting, you need to spend 2/3 of your time on 3, 4, and 5 foot putts, and just hit 3, 4, and 5 foot putts. And the other 20 minutes of your time, if you break it down into an hour, you need to spend 40 minutes on 3, 4, 5 foot putts, and you need to spend 20 minutes on 40 to 60 foot putts. And your goal when you hit, these are lag putts, your goal when you hit lag putts is to hit them inside of that 3-foot circle. That's actually 6 feet across, but inside 3 feet to the cup. So if you practice that and practice 1 hour per week, then I guarantee you're going to start breaking 90 on a regular basis. And so her game suddenly got a lot more focused. She really understood what it was that she needed to focus on, because we did 2 simple things. We set out 2 very simple goals. She wants to break 90. And then we set a very specific how-to goal within putting and identified some very specific steps that she could use to move forward. So there's a lot of power in using all of these things to really help you. So if you're smart about the way you use all of these things, then without a lot of time invested on your part, you can really get a lot more focused about your game and improve a lot more and make the practice time that you do spend a ton more effective. So I don't like to put guarantees out, but if you do a lot of these things and pay attention and keep coming, I guarantee you that your scores will improve.